So you've probably heard something at this point about Microsoft adopting ChatGPT and using it in a bunch of different ways throughout all their offerings. But what you might not realize is just how dangerous this situation actually is for Google. Now, I know what you're thinking. Google is this behemoth that seems way too big to fail, right? But ChatGPT, this deal right here, it might actually be the David to Google's Goliath. So today, we're going to talk about what's happening with ChatGPT, Microsoft, and Google, how it's affecting things now, and what to expect in the future here. My name is Trent Kennelly. I'm a Web3 marketing strategist, and this is the best place for you to learn about Web3, NFTs, and how to market it all. So that sounds good to you and you're excited. Make sure that you like this video. Subscribe to my channel if you're into it. Comment to let me know whether you think Google is going down right now or not. I think I know what most people think, but let me know anyway. I would love to know. And let's get started. So ChatGPT has been the most dominant subject in tech news for a month or two. So in 10 seconds or less, I'm sure you know what it is, but let's just get on the same page. ChatGPT is an AI chat tool that is far more capable than anything out there on the market today. You can use it for content, to code for you, to cheat on school assignments, just an incredible amount of stuff, okay? So there you go. There's your 10-second summary. But here's what's been happening since ChatGPT debuted to the world. First, Google freaked out.
You need to stop freaking out and calm down.
It seems like they just didn't expect ChatGPT to be as good as it was. And in their freak out, they called an all hands to counteract the threat because they saw immediately how this could severely impact their core business, that being search. I mean, if you look at what search engines people are using, as of December 2022, 84% of all searches were done via Google. And Google's closest competitor is Bing, with a comparatively small 9% of all searches over that same period. But a system like ChatGPT, which can understand and interpret language on a much deeper level than anything the public has yet seen, is a real threat to that dominance. So to understand this, let's quickly talk about how Google gets you the information that you're looking for. Most of you already know the general idea is called SEO, or search engine optimization. So you can watch a video like this one for more details about that and how that works. But for our purposes here, it's important to keep in mind that SEO is simply a set of rules that have been established to provide Google users with the information that they're actually looking for. You don't want to search for NFTs and see results for Niagara Falls tourism. But even with all those rules and legitimacy checks that Google has in place, it's still only as good as the data on your website, which means that the constant dance for Google has always been staying ahead of the manipulation of the system that website developers are constantly doing to try and get ahead of Google and stay on the top of the listings, right? Which is why we've seen things in the past like keyword stuffing, whitewashing text, metadata cramming, etc., that don't work anymore because those things did work for a while. They pushed pages to the top of the list, and then Google realized that's not really a good way of getting information to users, and so they made it harder to use cramming and all that sort of stuff to get those sites to the top of the list, so they had to find other methods to get there. So it isn't a far jump to see how all of these little technical rules can kind of get you mired in kind of rule hell.
There's too many rules in this house,
but aren't necessarily a system that intuits what the user is looking for. Whereas ChatGPT can actually intuit what a user is looking for and can determine if the sites that are being offered are the right ones in a way that's faster and more simple than anything that Google is currently doing. And that is why Google had a meltdown, because OpenAI created a product that got way too close to their core business. So what happened after this? Well, two big things. So first, Google's all hands resulted in them putting $300 million into Anthropic. Anthropic is another AI company building similar products and was actually founded by ex-OpenAI researchers who didn't like Microsoft's investment in the company because they didn't want it becoming too commercial, which clearly they ignored when Google came along and dropped $300 million on their lap. Then seemingly right after that investment took place, Google debuted its own AI tool called Bard. Now, as far as I can tell, there hasn't been a public beta or a way to directly chat with Bard in a way that's been possible for ChatGPT, at least at the time I'm filming this video, which means that all we have to go on is the commercial information that Google themselves have put out about it. And one other thing, the first live public demo, a demo in which Bard immediately made a mistake. So not great. So it's been a bumpy start, sure, but does that mean Google is totally doomed? Well, so far I've only told you one half of the story. So before we answer that, let's talk about what Microsoft is doing at the same time. In 2019, Microsoft invested $1 billion into OpenAI, who created ChatGPT. Then, after the wild success of ChatGPT, they invested a further $10 billion into OpenAI, which means that rather than try and develop their own system, they're just relying on a company that already is a bunch of experts in the field. In fact, since ChatGPT launched its open beta at the end of 2022, Microsoft has been sprinting forward with implementations of ChatGPT's system into their own core businesses. For instance, they've added ChatGPT as an add-on to Microsoft Teams. So now with this add-on, you'll be able to get smart transcription and meeting notes, live translation, better branding options, etc. Microsoft Bing is also integrating ChatGPT into search, which is the exact thing that Google feared from the moment they saw how well ChatGPT worked. So Google's in a bit of a tight spot here. More and more people are showing interest in switching to Bing specifically for the ChatGPT functionality, me included. And with Bard's first public showing being pretty weak, it makes it very tough to see how they're going to turn the bus around here. But I also don't think that that means that it's the end for Google. I mean, with big profits, like they often have, theoretically that means big resources, right? And the way we've seen Google respond so far means that they clearly understand the threat and they're putting resources behind it. So what happens next? Well, this is really where the new battleground lies. There's effectively been a breakthrough in AI technology. We're not looking at sentient robots yet, of course, but the ability for these machines to help with the daily tasks of modern users is enormous. However, the question is soon to become, which will people use? Because frankly, this is more of a make it or break it moment than usual for these big companies. I mean, just look again at how people are using search functions that exist today. 84% of users are on Google, 9% are on Bing, right? That is an enormous difference. This is not iPhone versus Android, which is constantly neck and neck at like 55% and 45% market share, respectively. If one of those two makes a blunder or misses a trend, they're not facing total market domination by the other. But Google is the dominant force in search by a large margin. So if they don't stay on top of these trends, the risk of losing that business is much, much higher. And the reason that it's higher is because people found one that gave them what they wanted and they stayed with it.
I'm not moving.
When Google came out, they dominated search by providing a far superior service. But if we're being honest, Bing's ability to provide search results right now isn't better or worse than Google's. But people are used to going to Google. You add something like ChatGPT in the mix though, and the game is suddenly completely different. This is much more similar to like the early days of Google or the desktop to mobile flip than it is to just adding a new search engine on there, right? Google's crawlers back in the day changed everything. And it helped bring us a world where people expect computers to understand a lot of things, and in most cases more than they do. So when a company like Microsoft comes along and offers them a natural language search option, that is naturally going to be a big win for them. Now, like all things, that is not to say that Google is going to lose their search dominance. They still have cards to play, and one of them would be a drastic improvement in Bard that happens very, very quickly. But for now, with the way people have responded to ChatGPT, there's a high likelihood that Google is going to take a hit on search traffic once everyone has access to the new Bing. What they do once everybody does have access to that new Bing is going to change the course of their business. They really need to be on it. So there you go. This is a huge change in the way that the internet works. We're seeing a monumental shift, and much like the switch to mobile from desktop, if it isn't played right, companies are just going to get left behind. So let me know how you feel about this push, whether you think AI is good or bad, and whether this is something that you're going to take advantage of or not. I would love to get your thoughts. Otherwise, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, and I will catch you in the next one.